Welcome back, everybody, to the Victory World Cup of Pokémon VGC, sponsored by GG Tour, Metafy, and Elgato. I am David Partington, and for the last time tonight, I'm joined by Stefan Mott. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. I was really impressed with the set we just saw. We've got one more set coming up. It's going to be a really interesting one. We're jumping into a very important match in the one of the harder groups, I would say. One of the more all-around difficult groups, Group E. It's going to be fun. We're jumping into New Zealand versus France.
We are, and France are coming off the back of quite the loss from Mexico, the 0-8 as well. So it sounds like they've maybe trying to find their feet in this World Cup, and maybe week 2 is where they finally got to grips with everything that they needed. Whereas New Zealand have come off the back of a draw versus Denmark, the 4-4. So not a bad start to be sure, but Patrick Dawson from New Zealand is coming off straight off the bench. He's not played yet. But for France, we've got Hippolyte Bernard, and he is an 0-1, obviously, from the 0-8, but is a very strong player for France, indeed.
Yeah, he's one of their regional champions. They do, of course, have multiple regional champions on that team, a very scary roster. But interestingly enough, he's going to be using a similar team to last week, so that's going to be interesting to see if he can sort of overcome the issues he had last time around. We can see some of the accomplishments here, the Cologne regional champion from 2020, World's Day 2 competitor in 2019, and of course a top 8 in Lille this year as well. So just consistent across the board. Hippolyte is always just really solid. No matter the format, he's able to put in a top performance, and it's going to be interesting to see what Patrick Dawson on the other side does to try to take him down. Patrick did go to the Melbourne Regionals this year, I believe, but didn't do amazing. Finishing top 20 is really not bad at all, but didn't quite have the same result that we've seen Hippolyte have in the past.
But Patrick, if he's done his homework, probably knows that France have been using quite a bit of Zacian Kyogre with Shedinja running around. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if he brings something that has a few options for that. And looking at his team here, he certainly does for a Shedinja. We've got 3 dark types. So I think he's prepared for that. But Hippolyte has not brought that Shedinja this time. Running a similar Zacian Kyogre team, but the same as what he ran last week with that Rillaboom and Grimmsnarl the Thunderous there.
I really like the addition of Kartana as well for Patrick. I mean, if you're playing a Kyogre mirror, Kartana is just such an ace in the hole, especially if only one player has one. Everyone has a Rillaboom, you know? Like, everyone has that Rillaboom to click the Grassy Glide into the Ogre. It's a good throwaway answer to your mirror if you are also running a Kyogre team. But Kartana is a Pokemon that rewards good positioning so much more, can really start to snowball a game if the opponent doesn't really answer it well immediately, and can also do the same thing as that Rillaboom in the end game. If you just leave it to the end game, just click Leaf Blade into the Kyogre on the other side of the field, and you're probably going to remove that from play as well. So I think that's definitely a Pokemon to watch over on Patrick's side, and it's going to be interesting to see just how well he utilizes it.
For sure. So we are getting in straight into this game 1. France versus New Zealand, and Patrick leads with his Raichu and Kyogre, and on Hippolyte we have Thunderous Incarnate and the Zacian. So Drizzle gets activated straight away here, followed by the Intrepid Sword. So we have a choice of Kyogre immediately on the field with fake out pressure too, so suddenly Patrick is very much in the driver's seat right now.
This is really scary, because what do you even really do? As Hippolyte, you can go for the max airstream, sure, but that's not going to KO the Kyogre. It's not going to be quite enough to get through. Does Patrick read this? Does he go for something like, does he lock into like Origin Pulse instead? I don't think so, because the other side of this coin is that you're going to do tons of damage to the Thunderous, even if it does hit you, because you're going to be going first. You're in the rain. Water Spout's 150 base power. Kyogre has a pretty high special attack stat, and it's not going to KO the Thunderous, but it's going to do a lot of damage.
And Raichu is one of those Pokemon that has like so many different moves that you can use before you see it. And here's one of them. So Helping Hand is the move that comes straight out, because Zacian usually lives this, can sometimes usually live this water spout, especially when they're not Mystic Water. So Zacian does protect from it. So Thunderous is going to take a heap of damage at the moment. So let's see how much this takes. And it's almost one-hit knockout. So there's a lot of damage, but a very crucial max airstream now comes out from Hippolyte's end, which is going to put that Zacian faster than this Choice Scarf Kyogre, and most likely also this Thunderous too.
This is an interesting turn. I feel like there are a lot of options that Patrick has. Now, both of his Pokemon are outsped now, which is very unfortunate. But if that's a sashed Raichu with like Volt Switch or something, you could just click Water Spout and Volt Switch into the Thundurus because they can't KO both of the Pokemon, right? Because of the sash. And that would at least guarantee that the Thundurus goes down, potentially trading it for the Kyogre. But there's a lot of options that Patrick has here. And of course, that's not even really an option if the sash is on the Kartana or something like that. So a lot of information to be gleaned here. A very, very, very critical turn for Patrick, as I think Hippolyte just goes for damage here at this point. You have the speed boosts. You might as well just go for damage. Well, or sub. That also works.
Yeah, okay. So kind of going on the defensive here, maybe thinking if it's like a bulky sash, he might be able to take like a Volt Switch from, or like some sort of like Nuzzle or something from Raichu. Maybe he's trying to catch there. So kind of get that free turn, leave Raichu kind of sitting there like a duck, to be honest. But Airstream is enough to get out this Kyogre from Patrick's end. So I'd be interested to see what... yeah, so there is the Nuzzle. So a great call by him.
Yeah, that's a great call.
But Patrick's obviously lost his Kyogre, so I wonder what his Dynamax target's going to be, whether that's Kartana for like the Kyogre mirrors you were saying, Stefan, or whether that's Yveltal he's bought.
Yeah, the Kartana is a very, very scary Pokemon. The problem is that there's really no like Intimidate or anything that Patrick can go for here, so Kartana's going to take quite a lot of damage from a Sacred Sword. Even if it Dynamaxes, it's still a lot of damage that could go down. Of course, you know, we do have the Yveltal option, which is great as well, but that's also kind of difficult to make something happen this turn. I feel like the Yveltal is coming in specifically to Max Guard, just to stall out that last turn of Thundurus' Dynamax. It's gonna be a tough one from here. I think Patrick got a lot of momentum on that turn 1, but I think maybe he wasn't quite expecting the Thundurus to survive the Helping Hand Water Spout. You know, we see that there's no Life Orb on that Thundurus, so maybe it does have a little bit of bulk. I'm not super familiar with the calcs there on Helping Hand Choice Scarf Water Spout, but what looked like a great turn 1 for Patrick has very swiftly devolved into a bit of a rough spot.
It has. However, Patrick does have his Dynamax on his end, so he is able to swing the momentum with a bit of bulk as well. However, he pulls the double here. Incineroar is the switch in instead, so it's going to be able to proc this Defiant on Hippolyte's Thundurus, but potentially at the end of this turn, it may be in range of like a Fake Out or something, so maybe that's what Patrick is hoping for here. So the attack comes out from the Zacian instead, that Behemoth Blade, most likely into this, what was the Yveltal, just in case of Dynamax, so a good call there to be able to... see the damage that's coming out there.
That was a lot. Yeah.
So if that's a double up there, we may not be seeing a living Incineroar at the moment, but it does able to stick around. Raichu takes the hit. So Patrick is positioning himself at the moment, but with the Yveltal in the back, it does have max Airstream, it's got the Dynamax. I still believe Patrick has the ability to do it, and let's see if the Volt Switch is enough to break the substitute.
I don't... nope, doesn't look like it. That's really unfortunate. Even with the Nuzzle damage, not quite enough. It's very possible that the Incineroar is able to pick up the Thundurus now with a Fake Out. I think, like you said, that's probably what Patrick is going for. But missing the knockout on the substitute, they're missing the fading substitute damage that he needed, makes this really difficult. Zacian is going to be able to dish out a lot of damage. The Intimidate did not go through because of that substitute. So a Behemoth Blade is going to do an insane amount of damage if he wants it to this Yveltal.
Unfortunately, it is, but Patrick does have the Fake Out this turn, and if that is the weakness policy Yveltal, which I'm thinking it might be with the Volt Switch Raichu, then if you're going for the Dynamax on the Yveltal and you Electric move into it, Yveltal probably does live. I mean, it's going to take a huge chunk, but it's going to boost it up significantly. But yeah, that substitute is like really like putting a spanner in the works for Patrick, because you can't Fake Out the Zacian to be able to cover for it, and it's not intimidated either, so it's a tough ask. But Hippolyte actually goes on the defensive here, going for the Protect behind the sub, as Yveltal calls for the Protect too, so I think a good call by Hippolyte probably this turn.
Wild Charge is going to go into that Protect, so a very good Protector by Patrick. No Fake Out whatsoever. Opting for the Darkest Lariat, I think that's kind of neat. It covers a potential switch in to do a little bit more damage than maybe also not convinced that the Fake Out would have KO'd. So at the end of the day, decent turn there for Patrick. Brings it back to a 3v3, although his Pokemon are substantially less healthy outside of that Yveltal. But still, I mean, the game's not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. The Incineroar is going to come on in. Most Yveltal tend to run special, though, so the Intimidate shouldn't be too big of a problem. And it's going to be all about somehow removing that Zacian without taking gigantic damage from really multiple Behemoth Blades. One Behemoth Blade is already going to do a lot. A second one would probably pick up the KO.
I think so. So the Yveltal is in the position that we could potentially Dynamax now. Like, the Zacian, I think it is at neutral because I think the Patrick's Incineroar did come in and intimidate before the substitute went up, I believe. But it's still a tough ask when, like, potentially Hippolyte has that Zacian of its own in the back, sitting right there. And, like, if it's got enough attack, it's probably going to be a two-shot anyway, because Yveltal doesn't take the hit that well. So we see instead some more positioning. So Raichu is still able to take the hit. Zacian's going to go for the attack. It is that Behemoth Blade. I don't know what side it's going to, but it's actually into the Incineroar, so no Sacred Sword at all. Is it enough to pick up the KO? It is.
Yeah, that crit coming back to really hurt Patrick later on, allowing for a very safe Behemoth Blade. I guess he probably could have just Sacred Sworded without the crit, though, so maybe not the biggest, most impactful thing of all time. But still, Patrick being so patient here, he knows that substitute's taken a Nuzzle and also taken a Volt Switch. Is he maybe playing this to try to, like, take that out with, maybe go into that this turn and then hit the Zacian or the Max Flare potentially? That could be what he's been building towards. I guess we'll have to see what goes on. The Raichu may need to fake out to outspeed, but that might be enough damage to remove the sub, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be really close depending on how much focus on this Zacian. I'm kind of surprised Patrick didn't really go for, like, the Dynamax on the Yveltal last turn, actually, because I feel like if you like Airstream like into the Zacian there, you break the sub, and even through the Protect, like, we're thinking, like, it's probably so close. Even through the Protect, you may even break it. So,
yep.
And then you're able to outspeed it the next following turn. And the Incineroar's not going to do a whole lot of damage either. And especially if it's going for a parting shot, you get in Raichu eventually. You can Volt Switch up and get the boost. But it's a certain argument could be made that it's a little too late for Patrick at the moment. He's got his last two Pokemon. And again, another defensive play. But let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, at this point, I do think Patrick is just playing a little bit too defensively. He's really hoping that Hippolyte goes into these Protects to buy him a little bit more time, but not going to be the case this time around. I kind of like that Hippolyte has just been ignoring the Yveltal because he knows that the entire match comes down to the Yveltal maxing at some point, but he also doesn't need to chip it that far because one Behemoth Blade is going to take it down to about 30%, just generally speaking. And the partner Pokemon are the only ways that the Yveltal is going to be able to actually get through that Zacian. So removing the partners first, just leaving the Yveltal to protect as much as it wants, and that's going to be it. Hippolyte is going to take game number one. Really well positioned, really well played, despite what looked like a very awkward turn number one.
Yeah, and quite convincingly, and with no Dynamax from New Zealand's end from Patrick. So I kind of smartly, I'd say, like, kind of going for the forfeit at the end there without trying to reveal your Yveltal set there, because I think we just saw Protect and that was it. So really, like, preserving information there, and Patrick's got a decent amount of information from Hippolyte's end, so the substitute particularly as well.
Yes.
So that's something he's going to watch out for, and that probably means no play rough on the Zacian as well, which is something Yveltal definitely wants to keep in mind as well. So a lot of stuff to go in for game two. And Hippolyte probably going up versus a team that looks a little bit like unorthodox. So for him, that's a lot of information too. So the helping hand, the choice of Kyogre. Like, I feel like this game two is going to be a lot different now that these players have pretty much, like, thrown out all their surprise cards all in once.
Yeah, this is where it becomes very interesting because, you know, there is still space for a couple more surprise things on the team. But at this point, when you see that much stuff, you're like, all right, I think I know what I'm playing against. You know, the big surprise Scarf Ogre was one of the big surprise moments in helping hand on the Raichu. Getting that much information on the Raichu moveset is also really nice. Raichu, even though it's not a very commonly used Pokemon, there are a ton of moves that it gets that can be good. Things like Charm, Fake Out. I think it even gets Feint, maybe. I'm not sure about that one, but like Volt Switch, Electro Web. There's so many things that it could have. And Hippolyte saw, I think, 3 moves. So just knowing the majority of that moveset already is a really nice thing for him to be able to go forward with and just not be too concerned about what that moveset could be.
Exactly. Now, Patrick does go for the Raichu lead again, which I think is just a really solid lead. Like, you're the fastest fake out of potential 3 other fake outers on Hippolyte's end, and you led the Yveltal this time. So we may see a more like offensive lead this time from Patrick, but facing down the Zacian and the Thundurus is a little bit of a tough ask for an Yveltal to be able to come back again. Like, you are like protecting from the electric type moves from the Thundurus, so maybe you could take the Behemoth Blade in an Airstream and then hit back with something, but if you're still Airstreaming on Hippolyte's end, then you're still maintaining that natural speed that's already faster. So let's see how this plays out. Hippolyte is going for the Dynamax, and it's definitely on that Thundurus. And Patrick does have the fake out pressure, so I think there's a lot that could happen this turn. Let's see if we actually see the Dynamax from Patrick's end.
Yeah, this is going to be fairly interesting because on the one hand, you do have the fake out pressure for that Zacian. So the Yveltal probably won't take a ton of damage if it's just hit by a singular max Airstream, because we also saw last game, and Patrick also saw, there is no Life Orb on that Thundurus. So it's not going to be dishing out quite as much damage as it could otherwise. The question is, what is the moveset on this Yveltal? Because we really don't know. All we've seen is Protect. We do see that it's Dynamaxing here. That's cool. But what's the game plan here? Let's see what Patrick goes for.
So it is the Helping Hand. So whatever this move is, it's going to be a lot of damage. And like, Thundurus isn't the bulkiest of Pokemon, so I wonder if it could be enough with like a Max Darkness to be able to actually get the KO. So we see the double into the Raichu. So no more protects or defensive plays from Patrick, at least on this turn. So that's at least paying off for him at the moment. Raichu's done its job. It's got the Helping Hand off already. It's already applied the pressure to stop Hippolyte going for that Max Lightning. And it is the Max Darkness going into the Dynamax Thundurus here with the Helping Hand. It's enough.
It's enough.
Absolute one-shot there. Nice play from New Zealand.
Yeah, I think the almost as good a position as you could possibly be in there. Maybe a little bit better if the Raichu, if the Zacian had protected reading a fake out. But overall, Patrick's going to be thrilled with that. Not only does he knock out that Thundurus in one hit, removing the Dynamax factor completely from Hippolyte's side, he's got a -1 special defense modifier onto that Zacian now as well. There's another potential fake outer with the Incineroar, which is going to come on in. And this is really rough for Hippolyte now.
It is, yeah, and we don't see the weakness policy actually on the Yveltal. It is the Life Orb, so it'd be interesting if the Life Orb was that extra little bit of damage that needed to get the KO on that Thundurus that maybe a weakness policy wouldn't have. But we do see the speed interactions with the Incineroar here, so Patrick's Incineroar is the slow one, or at least it is a speed tie. So Hippolyte at least has the option to maybe fake out Patrick's Incineroar here and then get a move off with his +1 speed Zacian. Maybe a little substitute to kind of stall things out a little bit more, because Yveltal can go for another Airstream, but Zacian is still going to then outspeed the following turn. So he can buy his time a little bit here. However, I'd be interested in what the full moveset on Patrick's end is, because with a Life Orb set, we often do see that Max Flare there too, so which is obviously a very nice option to be able to one-shot as Zacian.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the -1 special defense, that's going to do more than enough damage to one-shot. So we do see the switch coming in, respecting the faster fake out on Hippolyte's side. Now the Kyogre is going to be the final Pokemon as well. I think you're probably not going to be seeing a Max Flare here based on that switch in. But, I mean, Max Darkness even might not be the worst bit of damage, because you have to factor in, we got Life Orb, we got the -1 special defense, and then we also have Dark Aura. So with all of that, a Max Darkness might still be able to catch the Zacian, or do enough damage to the Zacian to put it in a very, very precarious position. Instead, though, the Max Airstream is going to come in, dishing out, honestly, a surprisingly low amount of damage given the drop.
I like this Airstream, though. You bring in your Choice Scarf Kyogre, and you give it that +1 speed boost. Now it's going to outspeed the +1 speed Zacian on Hippolyte's end. So a really nice play. And Incineroar is really a sitting duck right now in front of this Kyogre. So we're not usually carrying the Protect either, so this looks like just a complete double KO this turn for Patrick now, and the Zacian goes on the defensive here. It's interesting to know Hippolyte is still able to two-shot the Zacian even at neutral attack now with the Behemoth Blade, so probably not much bulk at all on that Yveltal there. But the driver's seat is belonging to Patrick right now, as we do see Zacian go for Protect.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think that we just had that damage roll onto the Zacian. I think that revealed physical Yveltal. I'm pretty sure that that's what it was. So if Hippolyte is able to identify that, that's going to change this game dramatically. The Airstream going into the Incineroar, covering for that Focus Sash, whether or not that was the intended targeting there, like whether or not he was considering the Focus Sash, that's going to cover for that. Really, really nice speed boost is going to allow this Choice Scarf Kyogre to be just even more annoying. Now, knowing about the Choice Scarf, Rillaboom is a great Pokemon to have in the back here, so the Rillaboom's going to come on out. The Rillaboom's going to be threat for sure. He knows that the Kyogre with a Choice Scarf is not ever going to be running Protect. So, we'll see. If that is a physical Yveltal, though, that Intimidate's going to really hurt when he's trying to remove this Rillaboom from the field.
Yeah, I think it is. So, but there is the option to Protect and the switch to the Incineroar here on Patrick's end. Like, Hippolyte is now in with 2 physical attackers. You can't switch them out, so Incineroar is just begging to come in right now. However, Yveltal, he was now +2 speed. Be interesting whether it is actually still faster than a +1 speed Zacian. So, which could be quite key here, especially if it's able to go for an Oblivion Wing, where Zacian can then hit.
Hippolyte's going for an incredibly hard read that I honestly don't think he has to go for here. If Patrick just clicks Water Spout, he wins the game. There's no two ways about that. Hippolyte is gambling everything on Patrick, respecting that Rillaboom, and he does. The read pays off as the Incineroar comes in, and that's pretty gigantic here, honestly, and that's going to allow the Zacian to most likely get rid of this Yveltal as well.
Yeah, I wasn't watching Hippolyte's buttons here, so I'm on the edge of my seat right now after what you just said there, Stefan. So, Protect from the Yveltal here. Rillaboom going for the Protect as well, so not wanting to get hit by whatever Yveltal's going for. And the Behemoth Blade into the Yveltal, so a little bit of a dead turn there, but yeah, calling the Kyogre not to be attacking there. So, a good read from there, but Patrick does now have Fake Out on his end. So
I'm really confused by that turn. I don't actually know what that gets Hippolyte, because if it's a special Yveltal, I think he just also lost, because I'm pretty sure he's just going to KO the Rillaboom because of the Protect. We're seeing Protect come out again, so it's going to be a double Protect. I feel like that was a really questionable turn by Hippolyte here. The Incineroar is going to be going for a Fake Out into, I would assume, the Zacian, and I guess this is where we get the reveal. Is this actually a physical Yveltal? Because if it's not, that Oblivion Wing is going to do a ton of damage, and it's also going to heal it basically all the way back up.
It is, and like I think I would also play that. I'd have been, especially if you're Miracle Seed, I'd have maybe even just tried to get the KO on this Yveltal with like a Grassy Glide, because it's pretty low at the moment. But yeah, there is the foul play, so giving you the physical Max Darkness the option. Not doing too much to this Zacian, because I think it's a -1 attack now. But Behemoth Blade is going to come out and get this knockout on the Yveltal. And yeah, kind of like a wasted Protect on like Hippolyte's Rillaboom there too. So Kyogre is able to come in, and like the Rillaboom's still sitting there, like able to like deal with it. So like there's so many turns here where it's like, right, if this happens, it's over. Next turn, like if you just glide or you just Fake Out, it's over. And then like we're on like the 3rd of these turns now. So
yeah. It's a weird one. I honestly don't really know how to feel about the last couple of turns, if I'm being totally honest. But, you know, there is an Intimidate on this Rillaboom. A Scarf Kyogre is almost definitely going to be running Origin Pulse, and it should be, I mean, we'll see. It should be able to live a hit from Rilla, but Miracle Seed plus the terrain is pretty strong. I'm not really sure if Patrick is going to be able to survive this, but we'll find out. There really isn't much for Patrick to decide on as far as the Kyogre goes. It's just going to click a move. It does survive. Okay. Step 1. Oh, he Sacred Swords the instant. Oh, I think he may have gotten a little bit cocky there, David. Ice Beam comes in. Is that enough? Is it enough?
I don't know if it's enough.
No, it's not. Oh,
but it's
the left is doubling.
Okay, so you can get another attack off with your Kyogre, and as we saw, the Sacred Sword is not a 2-shot on the Incineroar either, and Grassy Terrain is definitely going to bring it out of that range. And now the rain has gone, so Incineroar can go for fire moves.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness. So,
that... Well, I don't think that's... Oh, man, that endgame was... I have a lot of things to say about the last few turns, David.
I know.
But all that really matters now is that I mean, you go after the Ensign for sure, but he needs a Sacred Sword crit to get out of this. That's the only thing he can do, because, I mean, the Kyogre's locked into Ice Beam. That's great. The Zacian doesn't care about that at all. But even then, though, it is -1 special defense, so I don't know. It's still rough. Even with a crit Sacred Sword, this is still going to be a little bit weird. But I think it is really down to Patrick needing to avoid a crit, and that's basically it.
I think so, because, yeah, as you said, like, Hippolyte could keep shipping down this Incineroar of Sacred Swords, but I think if you can get the critical hit Sacred Sword and Incineroar, it goes down regardless of any extra grassy terrain. So I think it's the right play for him to go for the Protector with his Zacian to get a little bit of extra hit points, because if you can get out of range of, say, a Flare Blitz from Incineroar, then maybe something's going to kind of bring out here, but if Flare Blitz does a decent chunk, and as you said, Stefan, like, Zacian's at -1 special defense too, so Ice Beam's definitely going to be putting it in range for whatever it is here. So it's definitely on the Sacred Sword right now, and it's actually, because of the speed boost from earlier, it's actually outspeeding the Kyogre, so it's able to get that KO, but it's down to Incineroar as to how much damage it's going to do.
Oh, it actually survives that hit! Okay. I think we're still in the same position where he still needs a crit to win.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand going into the Kyogre there, because the win condition, regardless, is going to be crit the Incineroar. But he's got one more chance. Can he land the crit? We'll find out.
We'll find out. Stay tuned.
Oh,
right
boy. It all comes down to this. Sacred Sword goes in. Incineroar takes it. And that's going to be enough for... I think the Incin has enough about it to get 14 damage onto this Zacian. And there it goes. Patrick ties up the set 1-1. There's the crit on the wrong side of the field as far as Hippolyte's concerned. But, wow, that was a game. That was an incredible game number 2. As, well, we're going into a game number 3 that is going to decide the fate of this match. I mean, it's a really big match as well. I mean, if you're Hippolyte, or anybody on the French roster that played last week, you have something to prove after that Mexico match, and they're going to want to respond in force and get a big, strong win here over New Zealand. But so far, Patrick's standing in the way of that. We'll see if he's able to actually make it happen and take the first win for New Zealand this week, tying it up at 1-1.
Yeah, I'm sure he's hoping so. So, like, France getting top 16 last year and, like, losing to Italy, like, being so close to the end as well, it must, like, really sting. And, like, not quite high enough as well that you can, like, just, like, skip to the group stages either. So, like, they really need this, especially after coming off the back of that from Mexico. Whereas New Zealand, really being, like, kind of like the underdogs last year in 2021, actually made it to the group stages themselves. So they've actually done really well, and, like, coming off the back of a draw too. So like, hope is alive definitely for this country at the other side of the world from where I am, at least anyway. So so we are going into a game 3, and, like, after that game 2, seeing what was revealed and, like, some of, like, the damage calculations there. So, like, the Life Orb reveal on the Yveltal as well, with plus the Helping Hand being enough to KO the Thunderous, was a huge turn 1. I'm not sure if Hippolyte's going to be able to allow Patrick to do that, and maybe Patrick kind of sees that too and, like, switches it up too. But Hippolyte sticking with that Zacian Thunderous, just swapping the slots.
The other interesting thing to consider about what we saw from the Yveltal is that the only move we saw revealed as its base move was Foul Play. So while I'm pretty sure that Max Airstream looked like it was dual Wing Beat damage, it's still not completely revealed, because you can run a special Yveltal with Foul Play, because your own attack stat doesn't have any impact on what that does. So it's still not 100% sure, or Hippolyte is probably not 100% sure what exactly that Yveltal is running. So coming into game number 3, you usually expect to have pretty much all the information that you're going to need to really make an educated assumption on how to approach the match. But Hippolyte might not feel quite as comfortable as Patrick does in that regard.
Yeah, and we've seen Yveltal run double Dark moves as well. So yeah, as you said, Stefan, like, it could be like Oblivion Wing, Dark Pulse, and then, like, still a Foul Play too, with, like, no attack investment. So, like, it's still a lot to work out here, and having that Life Orb Foul Play is obviously really cool to have. Like, a Helping Hand, like, Life Orb Foul Play too, I think has a chance to, like, one-shot Zacian. But we're seeing a Dynamax right now, and it's from Patrick's end. It's the Kyogre, actually.
That's surprising.
Yeah, it is. So, like, Patrick going definitely for the turn 1 Dynamax. It worked last game, and he's going to say it's going to work again. And we see the interesting speed interactions there, because obviously Choice Scarf doesn't really come into play when you're Dynamax, but, like, in terms of the order that you become Dynamax, it does come into play. So, Thunderous Incarnate going for the Dynamax just as it's done before. Probably an Airstream, but now maybe a helping hand guys are coming out from Patrick's end. We'll have to see.
Very interesting. I thought when we saw the Grimmsnarl lead, I was expecting Fake Tear's Water Spout to be the play. But it's just going to be screens on this Grimmsnarl, not opting for the more offensive support set. And with Reflect, the Airstream's not going to do a huge amount of damage to the Kyogre. The question is really, does the Kyogre pick up the KO in return? Because generally speaking, if you're a Life Orb Kyogre, you just KO the Thundurus. You overkill it by quite a lot. But if there's any kind of bulk in this, I don't think this is going to pick up the KO. But a lot of the time, they don't run bulk. I don't know. This might even be a roll. And it does live with 42 HP, so pretty decent for Thundurus there. Being able to just get another attack in is going to be really, really big here. I don't know if that's quite what the Kyogre was hoping to accomplish, but at the same time, while it doesn't get the damage to get a 1-hit KO, the main purpose, I think, of the Kyogre Dynamaxing is to stall out Hippolyte's Dynamax and prevent it from snowballing.
Yeah, and Hippolyte's got to be fearful of the Raichu in the back, potentially for Patrick, because he's not particularly safe to go for that max lightning, which still probably live. But yeah, it's the Prankster Taunt coming out from Grimmsnarl to prevent the substitute. So, like, excellent no. Patrick. It's still no max lightning either. Not that it would probably have KO'd anyway, but another Airstream comes out, and now Kyogre's in the position to potentially max Geyser into this Zacian and very much probably get the KO because no substitute is going up for it.
Oh my god, that's such a gigantic play. The Zacian is actually EV'd to survive, though. Okay. So yeah. Patrick with what was a really cool start to this game, but doesn't pick up either KO. Really painful right now. I guess the question now is, I mean, we've seen Taunt and a Screen from that Grimmsnarl, which really is not an orthodox moveset at all. So the question is, does it have Sucker Punch? It gets Sucker Punch. There's a Yveltal on the team that would buff the power of Sucker Punch. I wouldn't even be too surprised if it has that move, but I guess we'll find out.
I mean, we haven't seen any form of speed control from this Grimmsnarl yet. No Thunder Wave, kind of no Trick yet. So we haven't. That could have potentially come out this turn, but obviously not. So Behemoth Blade is the choice of move for Hippolyte, and Grimmsnarl is going straight down. Kyogre's going to be able to live a hit from this Thundurus here, and it is the max lightning this time. So let's see how much damage this is going to do.
It survives. That's huge. I think the play now for Patrick is that we'll see, but max Hailstorm would be gigantic. It would put a timer on that Zacian of just 2 turns. We'll see if that is indeed the play. Just going to be another max Geyser, though, opting instead to guarantee the removal of that slot, even if there was a switch into another Pokemon, just making sure that there's as much damage out as possible there. You don't necessarily need to remove the Thundurus this turn because Dynamax is over, and a non-Dynamax Thundurus is significantly less scary than his big boy counterpart. But we have the Rillaboom and the Incineroar in the back here, which is honestly not the greatest for Hippolyte, because neither of those is particularly good offensively into what could be a Yveltal in the back.
Absolutely, and Patrick may even still have his Incineroar in the back. That will just weaken the damage from everything that he has to. And as we've seen, Thundurus is a really low amount of health, so even if it is Incineroar coming in, you can just, in your Activating Defiant, fake out, plus just a little bit of chip from something is going to be able to take it out too. So Yveltal is the switch in now, so not going to be boosting Thundurus' damage output, and it's not a Life Orb Thundurus either, so I think we've seen from the team preview, it's the safety goggles, so it's probably not going to be able to get a KO on the Yveltal, so Yveltal is in the position to be able to dish out damage and get a KO. But being that quick with all those Airstream boosts, that Choice Scarf Kyogre is a sitting duck at the moment, especially from the fake out eye as well. So it's definitely an either player's call at the moment. Both players have used their Dynamaxes. Let's see if there's any sort of defensive play again.
Yeah, the Thundurus is the fastest thing on the field right now, even though we do have that Choice Scarf coming back into effect. The Incineroar opting to switch into the Rillaboom is an interesting play. So this Yveltal is going to be left to its own devices. We'll see what exactly it wants to go for, but That is opening the door for it to potentially Sucker Punch, something that a physical Yveltal will definitely be running. This switch out of the Incineroar, though, is going to allow an additional Intimidate to come down onto that Kartana, which is showing its face onto the field for the first time in this set.
It is, so it's something new for Patrick to bring here, and like as long as the rain is up, it's looking okay, especially into that Rillaboom. Kyogre's saved in the back, but with Rillaboom, as long as it's getting that grassy terrain, like it's able to just pick up that Kyogre at any time. Wild Charge is the choice of move into the Kartana slot, so what was the Kyogre? Recall is not enough to be able to take it down, so a wasted opportunity for Patrick there to be able to go for something with his Yveltal. Possibly fearing the KO from the fake out plus wild charge. So Hippolyte is now able to capitalize off that and actually get in a second fake out Pokemon, having caught Yveltal's Protect. So a nice play from Hippolyte there.
Yeah, we don't have any information on this Kartana. We don't know what its item is. We don't know what its moveset is, although Kartana has a pretty basic moveset. Fake Out's going to go into the Yveltal instead, though, and that's a flinch, which means that it was going for a Sucker Punch. That is indeed something that it had, but the Wild Charge is just not doing the damage it needs to do. The Reflect from that Grimmsnarl on turn 1 is paying such dividends in this game. Sacred Sword is going to come in, do a little bit of damage to the Rillaboom, but more importantly, the Yveltal is just pretty healthy still. It's going to be faster than both of the Pokemon Hippolyte has left, and he could even just switch it out if it does take that Intimidate and if he's worried about the physical nature of it.
Yeah, now we've seen there's no Incineroar on Patrick's end. There's no, like, Intimidates that he can dish out that will then weaken his own Yveltal's power play damage. So, like, it's just kind of nice if he still wants to go for that. But we do know it has the Fly move, which now probably is that dual wing beat. So, there is an option to be able to just hit this Rillaboom down without having to go for like a foul play. Patrick's able to protect now, stall out the last potential fake out that Hippolyte can ever go for, and he can cycle in maybe his Grimmsnarl again, reset that to Kartana so you can just back down that damage from a Sacred Sword into the Incineroar. So having that one extra Pokemon for Patrick is probably going to be quite key for him in this endgame.
It's definitely not over yet, though. We have the Kartana, of course, can just go down to an Incineroar Flare Blitz at any moment. Even in the rain, it's going to be close. I don't think it would actually want it KO because Kartana has pretty good physical defense, actually. But still, a lot of damage can go out to that Kartana. And then, of course, we have things like Grassy Glide into the incoming Kyogre. There's a lot of ways that Patrick could still find himself in a rough spot here, but he's definitely in a comfortable position here as long as he doesn't walk into a trap that Hippolyte could be setting. In this case, though, Hippolyte's just going to be going for the KO onto the incoming Kyogre. This is a lot of potential damage, though, that's going to come out from this Kartana.
Yeah, and potentially thinking the switch was coming out from there, and it's the Aerial Ace that does a huge chunk to that Rillaboom. It is the critical hit, so that's putting it in range of pretty much anything right now. Kyogre kind of like doing its job, setting up the rain, maybe hoping it would live like a Flare Bits, like now the Reflector's up as well. So Yveltal is the switch back in now, but it's going to be really close, I think, because this Incineroar is really healthy and it's not going to be taking a huge amount of damage from a lot of things because it's come in now and it's intimidated the Kartana, I believe. So it is close,
like
but
crit is actually gigantic because we've seen Sucker Punch on the Yveltal. That's just going to be consistent pressure into this Rillaboom here. Flare Blitz in rain and also behind Reflect, that's not going to KO the Kartana. And the Kartana is going to have the opportunity to get 2 Sacred Swords off, potentially. I think Patrick may have been saved by that critical hit. When you think about the Intimidate being offset by the crit plus the extra damage, that's definitely the only reason that this Rillaboom is in Sucker Punch range, and it might just be the saving grace for New Zealand here.
Yeah, but it's Sacred Sword and the Incineroar, no Aerial Ace to speak of right now, plus the dual wing beat into the Incineroar too, so calling the Protect potentially there, but it does miss, which is like I think what a lot of people's experiences are with dual wing beat. It says 90, but it's definitely 50.
It either hits or it doesn't. 50-50.
It does. The grassy terrain does heal up these Pokemon a little bit, but for Rillaboom, it's probably not going to make too much difference. Nothing's in grassy glide range at the moment either, really. Like unless there's a critical hit potential, but as you said, like as long as Rillaboom goes for any attacking move, it's covered by that Sucker Punch from Patrick. So it's a tough spot at the moment for Hippolyte.
Well, the Grassy Glide is going to come out first. Either that means no Sucker Punch, or that means that the Grimmsnarl is just, or the Rillaboom is just faster. It's just going to be the Aerial Ace to pick up the Rillaboom, though, getting the Beast Boost, neutralizing the Intimidate, and it's going to be very, very tough for this Incineroar to get much of anything done here. We've already seen that Flare Blitz is not doing anywhere near enough, and the Dual Wing Beat still hitting pretty hard. Any Flare Blitz whatsoever now onto the Kartana, at least, is going to probably mean that the recoil will end this game. Kartana takes that hit like an absolute champ, and Incin goes down. Patrick taking a 2-1 comeback here against Hippolyte. Really, really well played by both players, and New Zealand tie up the series.
Yeah, that's a huge win as well. So congratulations to Patrick for taking the win for New Zealand against France, who are like a formidable team to be going up against, getting top 16 in 2021. So commiserations to Hippolyte. That's the second time he's used that team, it looks like, and both times he's lost as well. So potentially back to the drawing board for week 3 if they decide to bring him in for that. But it's not to say like both players didn't play well. Like there was some like incredible reads coming out, and like the substitute playing from like Hippolyte I thought was really excellent, especially in those first 2 games. But Patrick's like I've got a soft spot for Patrick's team. It's just so different. It's got the Yveltal, that life bomb, like
I also loved how you said at the end of game 2, we both said at the end of game 2, like, they've shown all the tricks on the team, and then he just rolls up with Taunt Grimmsnarl for the substitute Zacian. Like, the man's team has no end to the crazy techs. And it's one of those things that's like, it's so scary when you're playing against an unorthodox team like that, where you see a bunch of stuff and you're like, okay, that's your cute thing. You're running Helping Hand and Choice Scarf Water Spout. Okay, that's cute. Oh, and it's also a physical Yveltal. That's cute. So we know the cute things now. And then suddenly you're getting taunted by a light clay Grimmsnarl, which is not a thing that it usually carries with that set. So just a really, really, really cool team by Patrick, gotta say. And I like close matches. I think we all like it when the matches go down to the wire. So I like it that New Zealand has tied it up here.
Yeah, me too. And there's still a lot to be said for how the rest of the matches are going to go for this group the rest of the week, because New Zealand are off the draw, so they definitely need to get at least another win to be able to have contention for those top 2 spaces to be able to make it through to the group stages. But France are obviously looking for that too, and it's still early stages for both these teams. So we'll see how the rest of the weeks go out. But that is France and New Zealand for now with us. And an excellent match to be able to have shown here. Like Yveltal Kyogre, a very cool pairing that we don't often see, often with that Raichu, but excellently piloted by Patrick, and a great set between 2 very strong players.
That is going to be it for today. We have tomorrow's matches that you can see on screen. Some really, really cool ones. We're going to be seeing matches from Indonesia versus Egypt. Egypt, one of the debutants this time around, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they can do. We've got India versus Panama coming in as well. Austria versus Ecuador, I believe. And Portugal versus Japan. So some really crazy matches coming in. That final match as well, the marquee match of the day, I think it's safe to say. Both of those teams fighting for the top spots. And, it's going to be interesting because we've seen Portugal, especially, start off with a 4-4 against Austria. So while they may have felt like they were favored to get top 2, this match against Japan is going to be really big for them. They're going to be trying to get as many wins as possible, and they're already in the lead. So this could be an upset waiting to happen, and we'll see if Eduardo Cunha can put them one step closer tomorrow.
Yeah, those are some fire matches right there. Like, I will definitely be there tomorrow to be looking at those. So stay tuned for those. And the way you can stay tuned and very up to date for that is to follow us on the socials. So at VGC Victory Road for Twitter, /Victory Road VGC for YouTube. And obviously we've got the Discord and Twitch where you're watching right now. So join in the discussion, join in the community, and keep up to date with all the World Cup of VGC content, because it's a very hype year this year and even bigger than last.
That's going to do it for us today. It's been really fun. Shout outs to thank you for joining me, David. Thanks to Jamie for joining us earlier on as well. It's been a fun day. Really looking forward to being back on the mic in the future as well. But what a wonderful day of VGC. It's not done for the week just yet. Tomorrow's looking fire as well, as we saw. So make sure that you guys don't miss it. Come on by, watch the games, and, cheer in the chat for the team that you want to win. That's the best part about VGC's victory, about the World Cup of VGC. We all get to come together and cheer for our nations and cheer for our friends, and more of that coming up your way tomorrow. So come on by, watch the stream. It's going to be fun, and I will see you guys next time.